This is the pilot episode of the Power Healthcare Hour recorded on September 1st, 2020. I'm the host, Greg Beaumont, and any views expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of my employer. Number three is Power BI Pro is a developer license. It does give you permission to share content with other people, but it's much more than a developer license. And even without Pro, you can still do development. You just can't share the content with other people. So moving to the final slide, which adds a third column to the slide we were looking at previously, uh, with Power BI Pro, you actually get access to workspaces that are very powerful. And most customers are not getting the most out of that investment that they've made in their Power BI Pro licenses. Um, so what that means is that at the data visualization layer, anybody who has a pro license can share content with anybody else who has either a pro or an E5 license. An E5 license contains a pro license. Some customers have E5 for their entire company. And in that case, people can share content with each other without having to use premium, as long as the solution fits within a pro workspace, which I'd say from what I've seen, 80% of the time, most solutions do fit within a pro workspace. A pro workspace basically has guardrails for self-service users. It's designed for self-service BI. And if users are doing things that maybe push the limits too far or demand too many resources, it has throttles built in to kind of protect them from themselves. And additionally, if they do something that just has absolutely crazy code baked into it, it's not going to have an impact on other people's content or workspaces. So because it's on what's called shared capacity, other users who are either using Power BI Premium in your organization or who have their own pro workspaces will not be impacted uh, by their development or testing or whatever it is that's demanding extremely high levels of resources. Also, at that semantic layer, you can have tabular models, those analysis services models, up to 1 gig published to Pro. And that's post compression. So I've seen previously that the compression rate can be anywhere from 10 to 30 times what the data was at the source. That obviously is going to depend on the cardinality and the architecture of the source data. But post compression, that's a lot of data. I've seen solutions with a couple 100 million rows that fit into a pro workspace, and then they can share it with a small team. And for the investment to the pro licenses, they're getting a lot of value out of that solution. Additionally, you still get your direct query and composite models. So if you're working with extremely large volumes of data and you don't want to cache that data in Power BI, a pro license still gives you the ability to query those other sources. So it could be Azure Synapse, it could be Azure SQL Database. You could go through the gateway and connect to an existing OLAP model that you have sitting on-prem in SQL Server Analysis Services. Maybe somebody built it 10 years ago, it does the job, and there's no need to re-architect it. So you can just reuse it and connect to it straight from Power BI. At the data warehouse level, with the Power BI Pro license, you still get access to data flows. And the best use case that I could suggest for using a pro license with data flows would be, let's say you have a SME, a subject matter expert, who is in charge of curating, let's say, ICD-10 codes or DRG codes, or some type of code base that changes on a frequent, or some type of code list that changes frequently. They could manage that in a tool like Excel and then use a data flow to pull that into both Power BI and Azure Data Lake without having to write any code. Additionally, if your enterprise team wants to put like a date table or a timetable for everybody to use so they don't have to rebuild it every time, you could do that with a data flow, just using a pro license. And as long as the people using that data flow also have a pro license, they're good to go. Also, you're still writing that data to Azure Data Lake when you use a data flow. So you could effectively write that list of ICD-10s or DRGs back to the data lake, and then somebody on the IT team could pull that data using another tool out of Power BI and use it somewhere else. So it's effectively self-service ETL for business users. So that's something that I think a lot of customers I talk to, they might be using it here and there, but there's a lot more value to be had.